Welcome to your weekly program, Bilahdan, a show with an accent for those without one. This is really a breakthrough for us that racist Trump actually last week was holding our show, my interview with Hannah Omar, and as usual, fake news that she loved Al Qaeda and all that crap about our show. So I'm not getting into my show details, what she said and what not she said. You watch the shows, Bilahdan was Ilhan Omar. That was like 6-7 years ago, 2013, and she wasn't even in the picture. She was just community organizer, but tells you how crazy the administration is with the support of the hate group, which is the Republican Party, what the equivalence of Republican Light, which is the Democratic Party, run by the Democratic Ayatollah, Pelosi, and Schumer, and all those guys that they are fighting Ilhan Omar. And I think the danger and the threat coming from the leader of the Democratic Party more than Republican. Anyway, I was planning to go to Egypt to do my documentary, and just last week was a shocking video from the Ministry of Immigration, which is a Sisi appointee, was talking to some Egyptian there in Canada.
بلدنا كبيرة قوي 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 وتستاهل ان احنا كلنا نشتغل علشانها ونحارب علشانها، لان احنا ما عندناش غير بلد واحدة، مصر اللي بتضمنا كلنا، ومصر اللي بتقربنا كلنا مع بعض، ومهما اتغربنا ومهما رحنا ومهما جينا بتفضل البلد دي داخلة كده في قلبنا وما نستحملش ولا كلمة عليها بره. اي حد يقول كلمة بره على بلدنا يحصل له ايه؟ يتقطع.
And across her neck, it's almost like ISIS and Daesh style. Those are the type of people who are dealing with. And this is when Trump said, go back to where you came from. Would I go to there? I'm sticking here. I'm stuck in this country. I'll do my best. At least they're not going to cut my head yet, like when they are doing this back in Egypt under the dictatorship and the fascist Sisi. Anyway, so I got this out of my system. Now I can relax. Today is really a very, the Mueller report, Mueller time, the muffler report is just too much noise and nothing really comes out of it.
Its entirety. Accordingly, I ask that you summarize your testimony in 5 minutes. Director Mueller, you may begin.
Good morning, Chairman Nadler, and Ranking Member Collins, and the members of the committee. As you know, in May 2017, the Acting Attorney General asked me to serve as special counsel. I undertook that role because I believed that it was of paramount interest to the nation to determine whether a foreign adversary had interfered in the presidential election. As the Acting Attorney General said at the time, the appointment was necessary in order for the American people to have full confidence in the outcome.
And now we have a testimony. Did we hear anything new? This is what we're going to find out. Today we have somebody who's familiar with this. It's a familiar face, and she is also here from the Twin City, Coleen Rowley. She is a retired FBI agent, a former division legal counsel, and she has been following this. Welcome to Bilahdan, Rowley. This is basic questions, 7 hours of testimony. The guy doesn't look okay. I don't know what's going on here. But did you learn anything new?
Well, we learned a lot of different ways to not answer a question. I think they counted about 200 times that Robert Mueller answered I can't get into that. It's not in my purview, etc. He just had a lot of different ways.
And the reason, a specific question, why that he's not answering?
In many cases, he didn't answer things that he could have answered, and he forgot what his report. You know, you mentioned that he looked very feeble, and there's, I think, an explanation for that. Not only is he 75 years old, and he probably is not as sharp as he used to be, but he probably did not have much to do with the investigation or the writing of the report. He had 18, 19 very sharp younger attorneys working who did it. And so when they asked him questions, he couldn't answer those. And in fact, he had insisted to have a former chief of staff with him to help him out. And the night before he was going to testify, he had asked to have somebody.
But he knows he's coming to a circus, and all those congressmen, they want to show campaign time, and they're going to ask certain questions.
He was reluctant. He had actually fought this. They threatened to subpoena him. He did not want to testify. When he resigned from or retired as special counsel, he said he would not answer any more questions. And I think there's a reason for that too. He really, number one, can't answer the questions. The report doesn't make a lot of sense. And so he knew...
It's a 400 or 500 page. What do you mean it doesn't make a lot of sense?
Well, it's based, there's two parts to it. And the part that the Democrats are focused on is only the second part. Because the first part, Mueller found that no American had colluded with Russians. That's the first part. Now, he may have 2 indictments of Russians, but he found that not only just Trump, he found that no American had colluded. So the Democrats don't want to go on the first part. And by the way, there's a lot of problems with the first part because demonizing Russia and WikiLeaks was popular. You know, nobody knows, you know, and it's easy to indict a ham sandwich. But as all prosecutors know. So they didn't want to talk about that. The only thing they stuck with for 7 hours, very excruciating, was asking him questions about why he did not indict Robert Mueller for obstruction. And that's where most of it was.
Why didn't he indict Trump?
Trump, excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. Why did he not indict Trump for obstruction? Now, the Democrats tried to get Mueller to say that the reason he didn't indict them was that legally, because there's an Office of Legal Counsel memo.
Sitting president.
A sitting president. Now, you remember after 9/11, all of those Office of Legal Counsel memos that they wrote, which were, by the way, legalized illegal things. Torture, for example. Office of Legal Counsel memos have limits to them. And so, for instance, the one that was really egregious where he authorized torture in that, whatever, that's been rescinded. You can rescind. It's not a law, it's not a statute, and it's not a Supreme Court ruling. It's simply the Department of Justice saying internal policy is that we will not indict a sitting president. But if you think about it, what if you had a sitting president? I mean, I'm making up a hypothetical, but what if you had a pedophile, a sex crime, a horrible sex crime,
treason?
Murder?
Isn't that in the Constitution? You only can impeach him with treason, and there is mentally whatever.
Right.
What is the relation?
You can impeach.
But not indict.
You can impeach someone for a president for obstruction, but indicting them. But honestly, now there's another problem here, because if you commit an egregious crime as a president, you can't be above the law. I would agree with the Democrats. They said it over and over. You can't be above the law. Of course not. If a president murdered his wife, you would not go in there and say, we can't indict a sitting president because of an Office of Legal Counsel
Don't give
policy.
him any ideas now.
Yeah, and Mueller never asked the Office of Legal Counsel. He never asked some of these questions.
They talk about, they want to prove, or the Democrats want to say that the president, at least, there is an obstruction of justice.
That's right. That's what they're trying to say.
You could follow that and put him on trial, but at the end, it's not a crime. Obstructive judgment for clumsy, you didn't know. Is there something like that? Can you entertain that?
There's elements to the actual crime of obstruction.
Yeah.
There are 3 elements.
Yeah.
But number 1, there needs to be a crime. And in this case, because of the first part saying that no American had colluded with the Russians or conspired with the Russians, there really is no crime. Now, those other crimes that are talked about, those are lying to the FBI, and actually the FBI can, you probably understand this, the FBI can easily entrap people nearly everyone.
I know that very well.
I interviewed, hundreds and thousands of people in the FBI. Almost all of them deny they committed the crime. When you first go to them, if they did commit a crime, they're going to deny it. They're going to lie. That's almost very common. So Title 18, 1001, false statements to the FBI, was almost never prosecuted for this purpose. But it was used in order to impress on people to tell the truth. So those crimes that the Mueller team, his prosecutors, indicted, really don't relate. They don't relate. A lot of it was for corruption. Manafort had engaged in money laundering and corruption, 10, 12 years before President Trump even ran. So those things don't relate to what they're talking about obstruction. Obstruction can be to protect others. Okay, it can be to protect yourself from being prosecuted, but it also, like Nixon.
And the Fifth Amendment might even cover you there.
You just mentioned something. Normally, let's say your own child commits a crime. Oftentimes, a parent will hide as a fugitive. Even those cases are rarely prosecuted because the parents are not guilty of the crime. Martha Stewart, if you remember that case, she was prosecuted for obstruction, but she was covering up for somebody else. Nixon was covering up but there were crimes. In the case where there's...
I see. But your relationship with the crime, that's what we're after.
That's the problem, though. You have to have a relationship with the underlying crime. And in this case, that's going to be a problem. We would turn the criminal justice system on their head if you're merely saying you can indict someone for trying to prevent embarrassment. And one of the slides that they showed during the 7 hours, one of the Democrats...
I didn't watch the testimony. And
it was hard to watch.
I'm having a show about something I did not watch, but I read about it.
I'll tell you what, it was very hard to watch. And I don't think very many Americans did watch it because it was awful.
So what are the Democrats were after?
Now,
it wasn't really the crime that
they were after a show. They were hoping that Mueller would come out stronger, that they could use him then for impeachment. That's what they were using. They were hoping that this would start a groundswell. And now that there's a recess on, our congresspersons will be coming back and they'll be talking to, their constituents. Now, if a lot of people in the United States say, you gotta impeach Trump, blah, 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 then they may try. I kind of think that's doubtful, though, because the show that they wanted, some people called it a charade, did not work out because Mueller came out enfeebled, and they also revealed that he really didn't even know his own report, which he was just a figurehead. I'll tell you one question, for instance. One of the Republican congressmen asked Mueller about Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS was the entity that the Hillary Clinton people hired to do dirt on Trump. And they went to a British spy, Christopher Steele, and he then said he had Russians that said Carter Page was colluding with the Russians. That's all been debunked. And it was paid for by Hillary Clinton. And it was called Fusion GPS. Well, one of the congressmen said, Robert Mueller, about Fusion GPS. And Robert Mueller says, I don't know what that is. He actually said this. And the congressman, he goes, it's not a trick question. Fusion GPS is he had to explain it. I mean, he was very...
Wasn't that something happened during the debate with Trump? And
it comes up in our news all the time. Yeah. And in fact, right now, Attorney General Barr, Inspector General Horowitz, and a U.S. Attorney Dunham are all going to be investigating how this got started with this paying Fusion GPS to come up to make up a hoax.
This is really taking us away, or taking the country away from the real deal.
That's right.
So let's talk. What does the Russian hold on Trump? There is the people, Democrats, you hear somebody, he's an asset for the Russian. There is a video that the Russian held now about Trump, that he hired a prostitute to pee on the bed that Obama and Michelle slept on. That was just, he was fixated about this. Another video that have sex with a prostitute. This is the crazy part of the acquisition.
Talking about the Steele dossier is what the spy made up, apparently concocted entirely. There were some news items that he embedded in there to give it credibility, and it was leaked through credible reporters. And then Brennan, the former head of the CIA, made it into his intelligence assessment. So you know what? At this point, the Republicans are happy because they have completely debunked that Steele dossier. This business about having a video has been proven not to be. But unfortunately, when they believed it was true, the FBI did a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act without telling the court that Hillary Clinton had paid for this salacious, basically concocted thing. They went to the court and gave them the Steele report, the Steele dossier. And so they basically perpetrated a fraud on the FISA court. What they did with that then is they then surveilled one of the Trump campaign, which was Carter Page. And now these three, Barr, Inspector General, and U.S. Attorney, are looking into it and investigating it.
Barr has his own problem. What did Barr's report? It was an adulteration or just kind of it's a summary of
the only question about the main question that the Democrats thought that they had, a smoking gun for is this Office of Legal Counsel report. They thought that Barr had mischaracterized Mueller's report because Mueller was saying that it was only the OLC report. And now what? Mueller refuted that. One Democrat got Mueller because Mueller is very befuddled. I think that even from the time I worked, I worked for him for about 3 years. When, by the way, Mueller, after 9/11, was covering up. He was rounding up immigrants in New York City. He knew about torture. Mueller, this is all.
Well, how about his testimony about a weapon of mass destruction, about Iraq invasion?
That's right.
Wasn't a cover-up?
He
Why was he still
Mueller is a sycophant, meaning that he is a team player. And when Cheney said, "You read this," of course he did. He went before the cameras and in the Congress, and he read, "Iraq is going to give nuclear weapons to terrorists."
Biological weapon. Yeah.
Mueller does this all the time. He had the wrong anthrax killer. He had he helped. I mean, there's a whole list of things. I've written an article about it. So about Mueller. I read it. I wrote this article a week after he was named special counsel because I was warning people, do not put your faith and trust in Mueller. But even now, he's even more enfeebled. And he didn't know when they were asking him questions about this, they led him into saying that he would have indicted Trump if it had not been for the Office of Legal Counsel report. And guess what? As soon as they took a break, he had to come back and say,
I've seen that.
He had to say, "Oh no, I misspoke." And so it's kind of a cruel in a way. He's an elderly. He's got some memory problems, etc. And the Democrats were trying to use him. But now, by the way, they are going to investigate the origin of how this all got started with this very hoaxy, like you mentioned, this memo about sex and all the rest. They're going to investigate that because here's the problem. That memo, which seems now to be concocted, and the FBI used it, misled the court, then it turned into this intelligence assessment that the CIA director and Comey, FBI director, used to try to intimidate Trump before he was even president. And then guess what? It turned into special counsel. It's a seamless transition. And so it's very, very important. And unfortunately, it's also dangerous. In the foreign policy, you just mentioned something. We are distracted from the real problems. There's a lot of meddling. I don't disagree. I don't agree with Trump on much because I did not vote for him. I don't support him. However, I agree about the swamp. Washington, D.C. is a swamp of corruption, and it doesn't matter the party.
Yeah, but everybody say Washington as well. Doesn't exonerate you.
Well, but that's what Congress, if you care about good government, that is what you'd be looking at. You would not be jumping on CIA concoctions.
Are the Democratic that naive to jump on something they know?
They did. And we have.
Let's look at Mueller. There is three phases of Mueller now. the media face, they present him as a hero, the
Yeah.
dignity, the power that he's gonna march and bring the truth from the giant mouth. And that's a media setup for this. And he came, he was just like asleep. He doesn't know. I don't know who was this. This is the same guy the media talk about. Then the Republican want to portray him as an old man that he has dementia or something. And the Democrats now, they want him to trap him to do things. So who is Mueller anyway?
Yeah, I think if you read my article, this is not just recent. He has been going along. He's been a team player. He's very liked.
You mentioned that.
Very well liked amongst these politicians and these deep state shadow government figures like Brennan. Why is he liked? Because he will do what they want him to do. That's what I wrote about.
Team player. Well, a lot of people team player doesn't mean you.
No, I mean
You
to
team
be honest,
player with the
if you're-
positive things. You play the good game, not the bad one.
If you're a team player, but there's a lot of terrible stuff going on. People are lying about torture. Mueller actually gave a speech to the ACLU when people were worried about the Patriot Act and the FBI after the war on terror. A lot of civil liberty people were worried that the FBI would go too far. What? He gave a speech to the ACLU.
If he's team player, he think like his patriotism.
He got applause from ACLU Civil Liberties for telling them that the FBI would uphold the Constitution and honor civil liberties. At the same time, he gave that speech. This is not before he's 75. This is when he's in his 50s. And he got applause, and you know what? He knew that the CIA was torturing. He knew that the NSA had turned on monitoring of Americans, all completely illegal. He was rounding up innocent immigrants. He has a long, long history. So this didn't happen overnight. What he did now is he is probably losing some of his mental abilities.
Well, you're not going to use it as an excuse.
Yeah, when he got picked, he was picked because he was great friends with Comey, who had just been fired. That's why he got picked.
I know the Democrats want to impeach him because they know they're not gonna win the election. Instead of waiting for the election, I don't know what that deal is. But what's the next step for the Democrats?
They're going to try to bring in other witnesses, like Trump's attorney McGahn, who was this key witness who was told to fire Mueller. And so that's the next step for them. If you want me to guess at what's going to happen, I don't think they're going to try impeachment because now the experts are saying that it will backfire. So if you think you can make political score points by trying to impeach, sometimes that works.
We tried with Clinton, it didn't work.
Sometimes it works though, and so people think trying to impeach him, they'll get some more dirt, etc. By the way, when you mentioned it's distracting, if you want to know about Trump, this Epstein, real sex,
oh my goodness,
really horrible sex things, you should really look at the real facts, not make up things and based on Steele Report and whatever. There are a lot of really troubling background and things about Trump, business deals, all kinds of things, if you want to look at those.
So why the collusion? I mean, this is the easiest one to get.
It gets started. I mean, our media, especially MSNBC, Rachel
former
Maddow.
country and all of that.
They ran with it.
How about the collusion with the Saudis? How about the collusion with the Israelis?
Exactly.
Those other people have more
There's
followers.
really a lot of collusion with the Saudis, both with Saudis and Israelis, because Adelson was a main campaign donor to Trump. We're talking millions of dollars. And Adelson and Netanyahu and Trump's son-in-law, Kushner, are all very connected.
Oh, my goodness.
This is completely connected.
This is
a lot more. Russia, to be honest, there was a talk of a hotel there, but nothing compared to what exists with Israel.
We're working with Russia on oil resources. We're going to fight the Chinese. Thank you so much for coming and spending our time. You've been all over the places, voicing your vision and analysis, and I'm surprised the mainstream media not opening a space for you to go and talk about the things. You're welcome here to our show anytime. Coleen Rowley is a retired FBI agent, former division legal counsel. She's been following this. She works with Mueller, and she worked with Coleen. She's been, how long have you been in the FBI? You worked what?
I retired in 2004 after about 24 years.
My goodness.
Last 3 years were Mueller, and this article I wrote called Mueller and Comey Are Not Russiagate Heroes. That's the one to read.
Okay. You got it. And thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.